know, for me growing up in an urban community, you never talked about the effects of mental health or what you've seen every single day on a daily basis, affecting your mental health. You know, it was never a discussion during All-Star weekend, just being overwhelmed with everything that was going on. I put out a tweet expressing my depression. You know, it was just an emotional response. Really didn't expect too much of it. With me just sending out a tweet like that, opened up a whole nother door I never would have expected. Relief, freedom, inspiration to others that it's okay to go through things, to be vulnerable, to break down, be okay with figuring yourself out, speaking to other people, being vulnerable to other people. Life is always gonna test you. It's just about figuring out ways to get yourself out of that dark place when it feel like it comes, and that starts with having conversations. Some of the greatest conversations that I've ever had and witnessed was at a dinner table. It's fitting to be able to be in this position to have open heart dialogue about some real things that we deal with on a daily basis. So it's so much that could come from a dinner table conversation. I hope this project will, you know, spread hope, inspiration, and understanding that a dialogue of expressing and speaking out and telling your story is so inspirational. I wanted to talk to Dame because he's one of the guys in this league I have a genuine relationship with, someone I consider a brother, someone I got the utmost respect for outside of, you know, his greatness as a basketball player, but him as a man.
DeMar is one of my closest friends in the league, you know, and I think if somebody's a close friend of mine, you know, that means we share some things in common. It's a level of respect there, and anytime I could participate and lift up any platform that a friend of mine is on organically and in a genuine way, then I'm always be willing to participate.
Man, one thing I think, you know, we both got in common is this whole mental health journey, you know what I mean? Especially, you know, making it out of where we came from, evolving into the man we are today. You know, what's one thing that helped you or who helped you coming along, you know, just to kind of bring that side out of you? Because, you know, coming in the league, we don't know nothing about it. We just want to hoop, you know what I mean? Sure. But once the money, the fame, the attention, the distractions, the family, the friends, all that come into play, you know, we start to kind of hit a different type of wall that gives us an adjustment to try to figure out what's going on with us that's deeper.
No, for sure. I think for me, like you said, you start making money, everybody start depending on you, you gotta perform, you got that pressure to deal with, so it's just a lot that we got to deal with all of a sudden when we was never taught how to manage all of these different things. And I think, you know, we just get so caught up in our day-to-day, you know, show up to practice, do your workout, watch film. We get so caught up in that we don't realize the impact that our life in its entirety is having on us. And I think that's something that I ignored for a long time. But I never knew, you know, we never had no mental health conversations and depression and all those types of things. So I just feel like, man, I gotta get through it. You know, I gotta keep working through it. And you know, one of my best friends, Drake, was like, you know, one day we was talking and he started just opening up to me. Like, he was saying stuff, or even in the conversation, I was like, man, I'm surprised. He just saying this like that. He comfortable saying it, but he was getting this stuff off his chest, you know, about everything he was dealing with, how it was making him feel, how he, you know, was getting deeper into spirituality and stuff like that. And he asked me, like, do you talk to somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do? And that was like the first moment where I was like, man, I got a lot of shit that I don't know who to talk to about it, you know, who can actually help me navigate these feelings and how to, you know, place it properly. And that was kind of when I stepped into that space, like, man, I gotta address how I be feeling and, you know, why I feel this way, and dig deeper into like, where does stuff come from? You know, how do I deal with it when it's like, I don't have a family member that has had $100 million and had to be on TV and had to always behave and stuff like that. So it was something I had to deal with, and if you don't deal with it properly, man, you'll spiral out of control.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't like understand that about us. You know, they look at us like, you know, we just basketball players, and just because we got a bunch of money, we supposed to put all these feelings to the side. And, we really deal with like real life shit on a daily basis outside of basketball. And I always try to explain to people, it's like, basketball kind of been our escape to get to a point to where it's like, yo, we can't escape all this other shit that's coming our way too. You know what I mean? And it's like you said, it's hard to go to certain family members who've never been in this position. You know what I mean? Because we really the first ones out our family tree to even be in this position to be able to take care of everybody. And I think for me, the more we normalize and have these certain conversations, it give people the different type of confidence to be able to speak up when they're going through something. You know what I mean? Like we done had plenty of conversation about personal shit because it's like, we feel each other from a different level. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, it always make me think, what about someone that don't have that or don't have that relationship or friendship with a person where they could, like, shit, I can come to you about anything, say anything. It ain't gonna make me feel no less of a man or feel like you gonna judge me. You know what I mean? I think we live in such a fucked up society to where it's like to find that fine line in giving people the confidence to be able to go seek help, talk about it, express their feelings and everything. I think that's a big key. And I think, for us to be able to, show our vulnerability, go a long way in this for real.
No, that's facts. I think the same way that we inspire and encourage kids to be working hard, to be the best version of themselves as an athlete, I think a lot of them got the same childhood traumas and, situations that we grew up with. So it's perfect that we can encourage them in that way too, because that might actually shape who they are as people or have a bigger impact on them as people, because everybody can't make it to where we made it to, you know what I'm saying? And going in and getting help and not being afraid to find somebody to talk to is big, because a lot of the people that we love the most and we've been the most comfortable with, they got their own trauma. Yeah. Like they haven't healed themselves as people, so they're gonna have, even the advice that they might give us might come from a place that is not gonna be helpful. So I think this is big, bro, to be able to come out, speak on it and kind of direct people and show like, there's no shame in having some struggles. There's no shame in being in a bad place and needing help. We all need it. So, I think it's big, of you to have this type of platform and be using it this way. But we all been in these situations. We all come from something traumatic, whether it was big or small. So this is big for sure.
Yeah, and I think, especially when I came out, just being depressed and all that, like you really don't realize the stigma behind it until you really, make yourself that vulnerable. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when I did that and seeing effects that, pinpointed me back to so many people I grew up with that held in so much that they was going through, it made sense why they exploded or why they didn't make it or why they had less confidence or why they reverted to doing drugs and alcohol and all that. So, for me, it's just like breaking that stigma, because I didn't even realize it, at 26, 27, how big of a stigma it was, you know what I mean? Because growing up, shit, we had to have such a callous and growing up to be able to deal with anything. But shit, that shit takes a toll on you, you know what I mean? So, breaking the stigma, like you said, bro, we inspire so many people to be, athletes and want to hit the big shots and everything. But before anything, you gotta take care of yourself and your mental health more than anything. And I think, us just trying to break that barrier means more than, just playing basketball.
I think when you talk about that stigma, that's major, because a lot of times people telling you, they make it appear as weak. You know what I'm saying? Like you just said, I look back at people I grew up with, and it's like, I wonder why did they react to this like that? Or how come they had this type of attitude? Like for me, I had a good family, even though I had my own issues, I had a good family, but it's like, the people I went to high school with, I used to catch the bus with people that was doing random crazy shit. And I'd be like, what? I would almost judge them like, man, that's stupid. You know what I mean? Everything that people would do, I would have my own thoughts about why they did it or whatever, but you just never know what people going through and what type of outlets they might have, or, what's going on in their home. So That's stuff that people carry, from 6 years old, 5 years old, through their adulthood. And when you never deal with it, man, it comes out and it has a major impact on your life. It's stuff that I think about now. Like, I remember certain things when I was 8 years old that I probably shouldn't even remember, but that just show you it was a traumatic experience, and it affected me in things in my adulthood sometimes. Even though it might not be something major, it's stuff that I remember from 8 years old. You know what I mean? Like, that's a long time. And, I can only imagine that experience with people who might have had something more traumatic than I had. Right. So, I mean, this is definitely necessary, and it's something that people need. People need that encouragement. They need that push in this direction so, they can be better off.
How important was like your support system coming up? Because exactly what you just said, knowing you had a support system made you look at a lot of wrongdoings and question it. The same for me. I had pops at home and I had moms at home. How they feel about something always made me question what everybody else did outside. You know what I mean? Because I was more so worried about them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think having a strong, solid support system go a long way in kind of, giving us a conscience of understanding right from wrong.
My support system, even to this day, is everything to me. Like, they, for all the stuff that I look back that we went through as a family, it was always encouragement. It was always love there. So that kind of just kept pushing all of us in the right direction. All my cousins went to college. Like, everybody did something dealing with everything that we dealt with. And I think that's because of the connection, the togetherness, the support. It was a lot of stuff that I dealt with individually growing up that, like, I always had my family to lean on. And that was flaws and all, imperfect family, alcoholics, just aggressive people, you know what I mean? Just, it was a lot of shit going on, but the one thing we always had was each other. That was, like, I look back on that now and I'm just like, I always knew, like, however I represent myself, I'm gonna have to answer to them, like, shit, it could be a spelling bee. I'm like, if I don't show up, like, and show myself as a good student, like, I'm gonna have to address my aunt. If I go out here and I show up at this tryout and I'm scared of people and all that, I'm gonna have to see my dad. If I get into a fight at school, like, I'm gonna have to see my mom. Like, if I'm scared, like, it was, and these are all things that can cause trauma, you know what I'm saying? But ultimately, at the same time, it made me who I am. So it's like, that was a great upbringing for me, and I always felt the love, I always felt the support, but, like, we never had conversations around those things, and I think that's like what was missing for a lot of us, is like, what's wrong with being a bigger person? You know what I'm saying? Like, why I'm a punk if I do this, and like, just explain this, like, let's have a conversation about it. And I think, like I said, having that support all the time, right or wrong, having people behind me, coming to my basketball games, I got my whole family there. Catching a bus is me and 10 of my cousins, you know what I'm saying? Like, every school I went with all my cousins. So it's just having that type of experience, it just kind of, regardless of what I dealt with or what my emotions was throughout my whole life, I always had support. It's extremely important, man, to just have those people behind you.
Yeah, and that's one thing I even, like, credit a lot of my, drive to, is just, like, everything you just said, bro. It just hit home. And, a lot of people probably even wouldn't realize how close we is from, like, how similar we both are when it comes to, family and all that. Because it's like, I always think about when I was in my grandma's house, 2-bedroom house, and 17 people in there. We just finding space on the floor just to lay. You know what I mean? Like same thing, you know what I mean? So it's in the same token too. As much as you love your family, you look at it like, damn, man, it's not right though. You know what I mean? This not a normal thing. You know what I mean? Rationalizing, burritos, cutting them up in sections and sharing them. You know what I mean? It was everything in a moment, but it's like, thinking about how we fathers now and how we plan on raising our kids and showing them what's what. Like, they'll never have an idea or a clue what it is we went through, because we giving them a whole nother life, you know what I mean? So how, like, approaching being a father, how much did that change, you and your approach on, being a father to the kids?
I think it changed well, I ain't gonna say it changed, it kind of shaped how I deal with my kids, because I know from my own experience as a kid, like you said, sleeping on the floor, like in college, when I was in college, the year before I got drafted, my mom was living with my aunt, and it was 8 of us, I'd come home in the summer and we slept on the floor. Like this a year before I was in the NBA, we slept on the floor, like 6 of us right here, side by side, rolled up in the cover, nothing under us, just a pillow and a sheet. So like having that experience for a lot of my life, even going to my grandparents' house, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, and having 20 cousins there. And we all sleeping, people this way, on the couch, in a chair, on the floor, like some people sleeping with my grandparents, like we packed in. It just showed me how resilient kids are. You know what I'm saying? So like just knowing that from my experience as a kid, knowing that my kids gonna have, they got their own room, they got beds, they got 100 sets of pajamas, they got clothes, shoes, like they 4 meals a day, snacks, everything they want, they got it. I just know that they're resilient, so I deal with them that way. I'm not trying to hand everything to them. I'm not worried about, when they cry and don't get their way and stuff like that. I know from experience that like they're gonna be okay, so I don't gotta go on Instagram and be like, oh, I gotta get my kid this, and they gotta have this and have that, because I know like ultimately for them to be shaped how I want them to be shaped as people, I gotta draw on my experience as a kid and know like just giving them everything ain't what's gonna make them the kind of people that I want them to be. You know what I'm saying? I want them to be tough, even though I could never give them my experience. I can look at my experience and I can deal with them in the way that I was dealt with. You know what I'm saying? Like my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, nobody ever panicked about what we didn't have, and we didn't have everything. So I always think about that. Calling my dad at my grandparents' house, like, man, we need some food. And my dad would come bring us some KFC or something for everybody, buckets, some fries, some biscuits, whatever. But it was never no panic, because it was, they knew we was resilient kids, and they knew like, man, they gonna be okay. So I deal with my kids the same way. I get on them, I show them love. I think that's the thing that I do different from my upbringing. Like my upbringing was tough love, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of accountability and like, you all right, get up, you know what I'm saying? Like, even though it was a lot of love, it was like tough love. Like shit, you in the neighborhood, like, you ride your bike around the corner to the park, ain't nobody checking for you. Ain't nobody, holding your hand through nothing. So like, I try to deal with my kids that way, to let them kind of kick their shoes off and run free a little bit, and, correct them when they need to be corrected. But that love is something that I think I do differently than my upbringing, in a way where it's more affectionate, like I didn't grow up with, me and my mom was like that, but like, the men in the family, it wasn't none of that affection and like hugging and kid. Like I tell my sons, like, and my daughter, I love them 100 times a day. To the point where like when I'm on the phone with my son, he'll be playing the game on the iPad when we on FaceTime, and I'll be talking to him, and he won't respond to something I say, and I'll be like, what I just say? He'll be like, I love you too, Daddy, and that ain't even what I said. But he just know like it's a good chance he just said that to me. So like, that's the biggest difference in how I would say, my upbringing versus how I am as a parent, and how it's affected, me as a parent.
Yeah, same. Bro, I swear, we just the exact same when it come to that shit, bro. It's so crazy, because it's like, even, me having 4 girls and a son, it's like, that's all I do is give that, and with that, give them the confidence to, make me feel like they're a safe space. You know what I mean? Because I was always terrified to talk to my dad about anything. You know what I mean? Like, to the point to where, like, if I used to get in fights at school, I used to call my mama and tell her, and she'd be like, nope, call your daddy. And I'd be like, I used to be terrified to call and tell him, you know what I mean? But, for me, it put a lot of stuff in perspective, like losing my dad, and it took for my dad to be like in the hospital on his last leg to, show affection to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like that was all I ever wanted.
Right.
My whole entire life was to prove something to him to make him happy.
Right.
So I could get that hug or that pound or that, you know what I mean? Always, my drive always wanted to have respect for my dad. So, you know what I mean? Having kids and knowing like it took for my dad to be, you know, on his last leg to shed a tear and you know, show affection, you know, meant a lot to where, like you said, it was a tough love that we grew up with. But, you know, I do the exact same thing with the kids every single day, bro. Every single day, just so they know it and feel it and understand it and that go a long way, bro. So to me, that's like the best part of being a father too, just doing that, like getting
confidence, man.
Yeah,
like when they know they loved and supported and somebody behind them, like I can tell the confidence my kids have from just knowing I'm there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they just move differently. And that's what you want to see in your kids, man. Like you want them to have the type of behavior that you feel like you don't got to worry about them, you know?
Exactly.
Things over years that I've learned, and you know, more so being inspired about Dame is, you know, the father he is. I remember before he had kids, you know, having those conversations with him when he first told me he had a kid on the way, and you know, me being a father before he was a father, seeing him just turn into, you know, the dad, the father, the person he is. You get to see another, you know, side of him that only children could bring out of you. How you think injuries, losing streaks, the media, you know, take a toll on our mental health throughout the season?
We come in every season and we prepare for having success, you know what I mean? And certain things that you just can't prepare for, you know, injuries is part of the game. Things happen, you know, teams struggle sometimes when it's unexpected. You know, other people get hurt. A lot of stuff is just out of our control, you know, but we still got to deal with it. And I feel like a lot of times the media and people who support the game and talk about the game, they don't have a real pulse on, like, you know, everything that has any type of impact on those things, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's a losing streak or you might be struggling playing and they don't really know what you're dealing with personally, and they don't really know, you know, what if you got a nagging injury, they don't really know what's going on. They just speak. And I feel like that can be tough, you know, for everybody. It can really affect you. I've had situations where, for example, in 2018, I had a great season, but I had a bunch of injuries throughout the whole season. We 3 seed, we get swept in the playoffs. I had a bad series, and it was so much happening in my life at that time that they just didn't know. And I could never defend myself, or it would have been like, it's an excuse, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, the only thing that counts is what they see, you know? They don't want to hear nothing else matters. It's like, you know, you're gonna get that criticism, you're gonna get, you know, that type of attention regardless. So I think that's one of the toughest things, is having to deal with the stuff you can't control. And for me, I think as I've gotten older, you know, I buy less into it. You know what I mean? When I was younger, it was like, no, he's saying this and he wrong, or he don't know this, or you want to prove yourself. You want to, you know, you want to have that validation from everybody, that understanding from everybody. And it's, you know, it's a much peaceful space now that I've reached the point where I'm like, I know who I am. You know, I look at what they say, I take it with a grain of salt. You know, these people don't know me. You know, they don't pay attention to, you know, what's going on in my life like that. They're not following our team like that a lot of times. They check in a box a lot of times where they have to address, you know, this team is doing well or this team is doing bad. They don't really know, you know what I'm saying? So, and also at the end of the day, this is what we love to do, and it's gonna be ups and downs. You're gonna have struggles, you're gonna get criticized, but when all is said and done, you're gonna go home to your family, you know, you're gonna be with the people that really love you for who you are regardless. And you gotta be willing to let the chips fall where they fall. And you know, it's gonna be 15 years from now, they ain't gonna be talking about neither one of us. Unless they saying, you know, who's the franchise leading scorer for this, or who scored 60 or whatever. then they might mention you, but like they're not gonna be talking about us. And we still gonna be having to live our lives with the people that care about us. So it can be tough when you're in it, but as you get older, you gain better perspective. And I think that's where I'm at now, where I can just, it's still stuff that I'll be like, man, this motherfucker crazy. Like, you don't know what he's talking about, but I don't give as much to it as I used to, like not even close.
Yeah, same. You know, especially not coming up in, you know, we really didn't grow up in this social media age or stuff. So it was always easy to kind of escape, you know, a lot of shit. You know, nowadays it don't matter what you do, how you do it, somebody got to comment on it. Even if you're not a professional journalist or whatever, somebody always got something to say about it. And I think, you know, one thing I remember Cole always used to tell me was like, you know, once you walk home through that front door, leave whatever, you know, you brought with you outside. You know what I mean? That's work, whether if it was a good day or bad day, because none of that matters once you go in the house. You know what I mean? For your own happiness and peace. You know, and I think that's one thing that kind of like stuck with me because, you know, when you really look at it, it's like, yo, you sitting behind a computer talking about me, not sure if you right or wrong. You know what I mean? But I always want to comment about what I'm doing or what I'm not doing. And I'm chilling with my kids. I'm chilling with my family. I'm watching TV. And I think that's kind of how you gotta approach it. I think it's been an adjustment, even being a father, is trying to understand how to raise your kids in this social media world. You got so much of this fake stuff that you just got to learn how to put a lot of stuff in perspective. And, you know, like you said, you know, injuries and a lot of stuff come with the game. We play a physical game. You know, we play over, you know, easily over 82 games a year on top of playing all summer. So it comes with it, you know, and the best way to recover from that is just being mentally strong. It was crazy for me, even this summer, like, every couple weeks go by, I know you was playing a waiting game, seeing who you was gonna play for, what was gonna happen. You know, it was a few times I just called you to check on you, make sure you was straight. Like I didn't care about nothing else. I didn't care if it was Portland or all I cared about was you straight, was you happy.
You the one woke my eyes up to how crazy it was. Yeah. And you called me, I remember I picked up and you was like, you straight? Yeah. Like this crazy. And I was like, bro, this is kind of crazy. Like, you know, I'm in the middle of it.
Just the middle of it, but it's like, you know, I'm just, like, literally, bro, it was times I'm just chilling and it's like, man, I'm about to just call my dog, check on him, and make sure you were straight because, you know, I know all that outside bullshit noise could be, you know, such a headache and you just want to, you know, at the end of the day, we all just want to hoop, bro. We just want to know where we at, what we got to do, how we got to do it, and go for it, you know what I mean? How was your patience and kind of like your mental approach waiting and going through that whole situation?
I think I was pretty patient. You know what I mean? I knew it was happening, but I wasn't too caught up in it until it was a conversation I had to have about it. You know, where I gotta meet with the team, or I gotta, you know, talk on the phone with AG about it, or something like that. But other than that, it wasn't what I was focused on first. You know, it was like my kids and my family and just doing what I wanted to be doing. But I would say the hardest part. What made it hard is how I was dealing with it all at one time. Having to find the dates that I'm gonna be with my kids and separating from my kid's mom and I'm getting traded and there's all these like false reports coming out. You know, I'm trying to make sure I'm healthy. I'm seeing all this stuff, I'm seeing these reports, Dame said this, Dame is that. So like, they never took into consideration, you know, what could be going on in my life, you know? And they don't really care, you know what I'm saying? Like even to this day, they don't care. Like the season started and I started the season, you know, the first game I jumped out, I had a great game the first game, then I slowed down a little bit. And every tweet that I get, everything that's coming to me is like, oh, Dame, he washed, Dame is this. And on TV, they're like, man, Dame ain't, you know, that's the conversation, but like it's public knowledge of everything that I'm dealing with. I just waited the whole summer. I got traded a couple of days before media day. I got to pack up my whole life, go across the country, find a place to stay, like leaving my kids behind. Like I've always had my family around me for over a decade. Just my brother, my cousins, my mom, my sister, everybody like right there. I'm taking off, I'm going by myself over here, which I'm grown so I can be by myself, but my dynamic with my family is completely the opposite of what it's been for all this time. Like my kids, like I just said, is the most important thing to me. Like I'm used to seeing my kids every day. I go over, it's a new team, new coach. You know, it's all of these things once again at once, and it's like I was never looking for like sympathy or anything like that. I think it just showed that it ain't no love. It ain't no love in the game. You know, and like I said before, once you gain enough perspective, you know, like we've been doing this a long time. You take that type of stuff with a grain of salt, you know, and for me, there's nothing that I have to say about it other than recognizing it for what it is. A lot of people don't know the toll that all of those things at once can take on you, and they don't care, you know what I'm saying? They just trying to do their job. They need whatever the ratings are. They want people to hear what they got to say, so they just say anything. But if the roles is reversed on them, you know, we never know, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't get to talk, we don't take our time to talk about what they go through and all that stuff. But, you know, if somebody goes on a leave, we expect it to have empathy and we expect it to understand and send prayers and send love. But when it's us, it's no, just perform, you know what I mean? And you realize that that's the way it is, but we deal with a lot, you know what I mean? Like, I would say that was the hardest part for me, is dealing with all of this shit at one time.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing that people just don't put in consideration, you know what I mean? That's just even like, you know, like, to me, like, I always look at it like, I remember one day I called you to check on you and you with the boys playing a game, you know what I mean? And to me, it's like, that's everything, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Like, that's the piece. Like, I don't give a shit about no basketball, no team, none of this. Like, man, this is my partner. My partner, that's all I needed to see to know my partner is straight, you know what I mean? Because that's the same thing I go and do, is chill with my kids, do that because, you know, I don't think people think it's as difficult as it really is.
They think you get money. See, people who haven't experienced what we have financially, they think it's gonna solve all your problems. Yeah. And then it's like, no, this don't solve all your problems. They like, well, if I had that, I wouldn't have, you know, I wouldn't be as stressed about this. But it's like, that might be true, but life happens to everybody. You know what I mean? Life happens to everybody. So that's the one thing I think people really don't understand. It's like, yeah, it's great to have money, it's great to have all these things, but like being all these miles away from your kids is the same for everybody.
Yeah, everybody. You know
think
about it. Think about how many people we know just in our occupation that hides behind so much stuff because they lonely. They hide behind the money, the fame, the attention, the going out, all these different type of things because you empty, you know what I mean? And it's like that's a real thing for not just our league, just anybody who's looked at not like a human. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we all human. And I think that's a big thing that get lost because they see dollar signs and fame and all this when in actuality, like basketball is my safe haven. This is my peace. This is what I love to do that helped me escape from being in the streets. Being able to make it home every single night gave me the motivation to want to, you know, go to school, go to college and make more of myself, you know what I mean? So don't look at me anything less because I'm getting X amount of money, you know what I mean? Because money, I always tell people, I wish everybody experienced having money so they can realize money ain't everything. That's like that's the realest thing in the world because you first thing you will notice that it's not everything. It's all temporary.
Not even close to everything.
Not at all. You know what I mean? So
I think DeMar is actually the perfect person to lead this type of conversation because a lot of times people dealing with mental health issues, they don't want to speak out. You know, they stay quiet. They try to keep it to themselves because they don't want to appear to be weak. So I think when you have somebody who's an NBA star, a tough person, you know, from Compton, like you wouldn't expect somebody that comes from that type of background, the type of status that he has as an athlete to be willing to be this open and, you know, be vulnerable and have this type of conversation, period. So I think if anything, that being him, I think is perfect to lead the conversation because it might encourage or inspire people who don't want to step up and speak on it or, you know, share what type of place they've been in to actually do it, you know. So it'll be different if somebody who had none of those experiences or couldn't inspire or encourage anybody tried to do it, it probably wouldn't be as impactful. So I think he's actually the perfect person to do it because knowing his personality, I would have never expected him to do it, you know, or speak on it himself, or where he comes from. I come from a similar place, and that's something that I probably would have kept close to the vest for myself for a long time. So I think he's the perfect person for it.
When did you learn the importance of just taking care of yourself physically?
I would say I've always heard people say, like, you got to take care of your body. You got to take care of your body. And I remember, like, my second year in the league, practice ended, and I was standing out there, I'm dunking, me and Will Barton, we doing all these dunks. And Nick Batum was like, one day, you're gonna be looking at another young dude like, stop doing that shit. Yeah. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna always be able to do this. And I remember, like, I think it was my 4th year, I hadn't missed no games for my first 4 years, and I got hurt. I had tears in plantar fascia. I had plantar fasciitis. And I remember, like, I came back from that, and then, like, I started having calf tightness. And then I came back from that, and I started having hamstring tightness, and then quad tendonitis, and, you know, then it's an ankle injury. So, like, when that happened, I probably had all of those experiences by, like, my 6th year. Yeah. And that was when I was like, I can't just be skipping through. Like, I'm playing 35, 36 minutes. Like, we traveling. Every time we play, get on the plane, like, you got that inflammation, like, your body kind of swelling up from the game, and, like, what we just did, then being up in the air. It was like, man, I got to start taking care of myself, because I started hitting that point to where, like, my body just, if I didn't, my body just wouldn't feel good. For sure. Like, you get out there, you feel stiff, you feel like you running in mud. What we do is not normal. Yeah. Like, the pace that we play at, playing 82 games, practice, you got preseason games, you got playoff games, you got all the training that we do. You got practice. Yeah, like travel. You got all of this different stuff. Like, what we do, our bodies are not meant to do. So that's why we train our bodies to be able to withstand, like, this type of trauma and stress on our bodies. The level of competition is like, your body shouldn't be doing this. Like, when you see yourself in these pictures, that, like, these action shots, and you see, like, your foot twisted this way, and you low to the ground, somebody pushing you, it's like, we not supposed to be doing that. It takes for you to have that type of experience to be like, all right, you know, I ain't gonna last long, especially not at a high level, if I don't start being proactive about icing after the game, getting a cold tub, getting a massage, getting treatment, all of that stuff, like, it counts. So, like, that was my experience, and once I learned that, I started managing my body way better.
That go a long way, you know what I mean? I think I learned my second year in lead. I always used to talk about the old heads wearing ice on their knees, putting ice, getting in the ice tub, because, like you said, man, we used to didn't need to stretch. We just go out there and hoop, you know what I mean? And I think, you know, even me going my 15th year, bro, like it's crazy, because they showed, like, highlights from everybody on the team from high school the other day, and, like, my highlights was the only one that was blurry. Yeah. Like why? You know, the quality was terrible, and it was just like, damn, I've been doing it this long. But if it wasn't for me, like, taking care of myself and doing all the necessary things, like, even last night, we landed from Boston last night at 1 o'clock. I was in the gym. I didn't leave the gym last night till 4:30 in the morning, because I was just trying to get. You don't
be sleeping, bro.
Yeah, I don't sleep, but just to go in there, that time of night and do that, and I thought the same thing when I laid down. I'm like, bro, what is you, like, it's 5 o'clock before you even going to sleep.
It take that type of commitment, though. Yeah, sometimes it be like that.
Yeah, like, you got to do it when everything's going good and everything's going bad. You know, a lot of people do it when I don't feel good. Like, you got to do it every single day. So, and it's the same thing, like, with this whole mental health journey. It's like, you know, self-care, self-understanding every single day just to try to get through it. You know what I mean?
You can't pour from an empty cup. Like, that's, when I started talking to a therapist, the number one thing that we focused on was how much I do for people. Like, my whole career, I've always been invested in my teammates, always been invested in, like, showing up for the team. I do everything I can for my family. Like I always want to be the best version of myself, but I was pouring into all this stuff because that's what's in my heart. But then I wasn't taking care of myself. So if you're not taking care of yourself mentally and physically, it's only gonna be so long before you wiped out. You know, you can't do nothing for other people or support other things if you ain't taking care of yourself.
Me and Dame first met, obviously we got the same agent. We had the same trainer, Chris Farr. He worked me out, prepared me for the draft. And he did the same with Dame. When it was time for him to make the transition over to the league, you know, it's like we automatically connected from there.
People would toss out brother and all that stuff, but you know, I don't take that lightly. You know, if anything, I would just call somebody an associate or whatever, but we share an agent, and before I even got drafted, when I was getting ready to go through that whole draft process, you know, we was working out together sometimes. You know, I get on the plane with him, go to LA. I got to see, you know, he a real neighborhood kid like me. You know, we've just stayed connected, you know, just from that foundation, you know, for over a decade now. And you get to know somebody over that amount of time just on a deeper and deeper level. And, you know, we've been around each other more and more. So I think our friendship has just grown from that.
I mean, obviously outside of hooping and our everyday job, I mean, we kind of know, but what's your go-to hobbies to keep your mind occupied away from, you know, just to feel like you're getting away from this whole basketball stuff?
I think the number one thing everybody knows is music. Like I rap, so I think music is like a perfect outlet for me because it's like journaling for me. You know what I'm saying? I don't use music as like a be cool experience. For me, it's like literally like journaling. Like I'm letting people in on my thoughts and feelings about whatever my current state is. Like I just put a project out last week and it's called Life Lately. And it's literally about, you know, everything that's been discussed, you know, about my personal life and where I've been, you know, the trade and, you know, the stuff involving my life off the floor. But I'm speaking from my heart, you know, and where I'm at with it and sharing it in a way where I'm able to be creative, but also kind of put my own twist on it, you know what I'm saying? Like as something that I enjoy doing. And then I would say like boxing, like right after basketball, boxing is probably my favorite sport. And it's also something that I like to do, you know what I mean? I think it allows you to blow off some steam because it's a physical sport, you know, it's a combat sport. And also just staying sharp, man. Like we live in a dangerous world, so it's extremely important to be able to properly defend yourself, you know, if anything ever happens. So the fact that both of those things are kind of a release, I think is perfect for me given the type of pressure that we deal with our job and what comes with our job. You know, both of those things I say I probably lean on the most.
Yeah, that's why, my man. I mean, you rap, I rap for fun. I just do it and I send it to everybody I'm close to. You already know, you know whatever.
One day I'm gonna leak one of your raps.
See,
bro.
if anybody want to know what songs I got, I'm pretty sure Dame got at least 80% of my songs. So I'll send them to you, but that's that's definitely a hobby of mine too. Those two things, you know, like you said, like, and I don't think people give you the ultimate credit like they should when it comes to rapping, from the standpoint of like, you know, they get so caught up in the basketball aspect, but you being able to storytell and express so much you express, like if people just really sit there and listen to it, bro, it's a whole different dynamic of something that's better than fucking 85% of the music that's out to this day. You know what I mean? So even for me, it's like I listen to it from the standpoint of you not even being my partner, just from like a relatable standpoint. You know what I mean? So that is shared, bro. And you could really learn a person if they really just dig deep into that, you know what I mean? So to me, it's like, that's a hell of a hobby, you know what I mean? And I think even going back to the boxing, like the same for me, bro. Like I you know, whenever I take the girls boxing, I see videos of, you know what I mean? But that's how much I'm into it too. Like just loving it. It's another competitive nature that we could dig into and kind of challenge ourselves with, you know, and it's fun. It's one of those things you feel like you can't master, you know what I mean? You want to just lock into it. You know, a lot of guys play golf. You know, I think our thing has definitely been the whole little boxing experience and just being a fan of it, understanding it, like you said, protecting yourself. But them two things are definitely great hobbies to blow off and release a lot of steam.
A lot of steam. I think also, bro, something that's big for me that I never really I didn't pay a lot of attention to, because like I said, I always had my family around, that it got to the point where we was just around each other. Like, we can go to dinner and we'll just be sitting there, it won't really be a whole lot of dialogue, or we'll go on vacation and we'll just be around each other. And like, in recent years, it's like actually being invested in my family and actually like building our relationships and paying attention to it. Like, you know, last week Thanksgiving, I had my kids come out to Milwaukee, my brother, his wife, my nephews, my mom, my cousins, like my cousin that lived with me, his kids and his wife came out. And we all was just in the house together. And like my day to day is like the house be empty. Like I go to practice, come home, like I was going downstairs and, you know, I'd get on the game or I'd be watching Netflix or something. And I was doing that with everybody there because I'm just so used to getting my space. And I literally was just in the middle of like looking through the shows and I was like, I actually need to, I could hear everybody upstairs, you know, and my kids was sitting down there with me like on an iPad, whatever, but I could hear them go upstairs, running around with their cousins. They playing music up there, everybody kind of talking. And I literally just paused the game and I just went up there and joined the chaos, because it was like that, even though it was chaotic and kids running everywhere, like just being in their presence, like that's another thing for me it's not the same as like music or boxing, but it's like that environment of love is like something that I know I need to throw myself into more, because, you know, it fills me up in a way that nothing else does. You know what I mean? Like I get around them and my kids, you know, my mom sitting next to me on the couch, and then my brother sitting on this side of me, and then my kids all sitting on my lap, and then one of them playing with my mom while they on my lap. My nephews come over there like, let me see your phone. Just like those interactions and that love, like that's something else that just do it for me. Cause it's like, don't nobody care I got a game tomorrow. Don't nobody care what was happening on TV or social media. It's like, this is our life. You know what I'm saying? We get this one time. This is the family that we've been given, and this is what it is. And we gotta embrace and be intentional with how we deal with each other, you know what I'm saying? Because we all take away from that. Like my nephews, I can tell when my nephews was there and like when we having interactions, I can see what it did for them. So it's like we need to pour more into that, because we all take positive away from that, you know what I'm saying, as people.
That's crazy you said that, because I you know, when I'm with the whole family, I do the exact same thing, you know, and it's to a point to where it's like, a lot of my family members be out there like sneak away from me because, like you said, I don't sleep. Yeah. So I keep you up to 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning just talking to everybody fall asleep. Now I'm mad at everybody sleep, but it's like, to me, that's how much it mean to me, you know, when I'm around my loved ones, because you give me that realness back in such a, because we live in such a world that is so draining and it's so fake, and you got to question everything and everybody's intentions towards you. It's nothing like when you got family around. So, you know, whenever I get the opportunities, you know, I hold my family hostage, bro. It's sleep deprivation, and sometimes they don't even eat because you know what I mean? I just be wanting to kick it with them, but yeah. To the future of like, you know, everybody coming up, what's your advice to them to take care of themselves from a mental standpoint?
I would say just to, you know, take the time to yourself, to pay attention to your feelings, pay attention to your thoughts, and take care of that, you know. I think a lot of times for me, like I could even think back to when I was a kid, I would have certain thoughts, and instead of me dealing with those thoughts and dealing with some of those feelings, I just ignore it. Yeah. Like I would literally ignore it. If something would like worry me, I would just like try to block it or try to erase it, and I would never deal with it. And I ain't gonna say it caught up to me, but it stayed until I dealt with it, you know, like even into my adulthood to an extent. And I would just say, like, for young people, don't ignore those thoughts and those feelings, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times you get embarrassed or you don't want people to think this about you or think that about you. But what I've come to find out is that everybody has those same things about them. It's just nobody wants to be the one to say it. So now I'm just, even in my music, you know what I'm saying? I'm more comfortable saying what might not be popular or what might make me look a certain way, because I've lived enough, even at a young 33, I've lived enough to know, like, everybody got some shit. Whether they say it or not, like, even the people that might clown on me for saying something or having a certain type of feeling or doing something that they might think is funny or like is weak, even the people that might clown on it, I guarantee you they looking at it like, damn, like, I be thinking that too, or I be feeling like that too. So it's like, I would just encourage kids to like, not be afraid to address those thoughts, address those feelings. Don't be afraid to say or do things that's unpopular, because the biggest problem is everybody ain't bold enough to say it, but we all dealing with the same stuff pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got those same issues. They just don't want to say it. It's just a matter of who's bold enough to say it and who's willing to really address it, because I'm happy now that I've reached the point to where I'll say whatever I need to say. And I'll do whatever I need to do to whoever, in front of the camera, off the camera, or whatever, because I know, like, if you act like you don't got no problems, then you fake. If you act like you just got it all figured out and you just ain't got nothing off with you or nothing, then you just fake. And I know that for a fact. And I think, you know, kids need to know that. They need to be told that. Like, my mom never hid her shortcomings from her. She'd say it out loud, you know? Like, and I think that's something that also encouraged me, is when the person that you think is perfect and a superhero and don't do nothing wrong is, you know, not afraid to do it. It's like, you know, it'll bring it out of you. So that's what I would tell kids, you know, just so they feel like they can be open and that they can deal with themselves in that way, because, you know, the next kid or the next person is not perfect. You know what I mean? The shit is probably worse for the person that you worried about what they gonna think.
Yeah, that's real. You know what I mean? I think, I tell everybody the same thing. You know, life is gonna be life, no matter what. It's all right. It's all right to go through the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's all right to express yourself and be vulnerable. You know, it's fine. Like, we all need that. We all have emotions. We all human, and the faster you accept that, the easier it is to be able to have, you know, those necessary conversations with someone you care about. And everybody's story is unique, and that story can help out the next person, you know. And that's all we trying to do every single time we get an opportunity to express ourselves or show our vulnerabilities, so we could go out there and be great, you know. I don't know one person who got this life thing figured out, you know. So with that, it's gonna be a consistent journey, and the reward is in the journey. So accept the journey as it come, and know the more you push through and figure it out and help others, the better it's gonna be for yourself too. I wanna give a big shout out, one of my close friends, one of the realest human beings I know, to touch a basketball, to be a father, to be a son, to be a brother, uncle. My man Dame, appreciate you coming through, doing this with your boy. Means a lot. Dinners with Demar. Hope y'all enjoy it.